compelling questions that have relevance, and we're going to stick with those questions. So in 1 second, we're going to get going as soon as I get the go-ahead.
Can you hear me, TV guy?
Did we test all those?
No.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Elizabeth Radow. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Larchmont and Mamaroneck, and I want to thank you all for coming. This is a remarkable turnout. As you all know, our county legislator, Judy Myers, will not be running for re-election this year, and we were asked whether or not we could hold a debate in advance of the Democratic primary. This has been unprecedented as far as I know, but we decided that this was a very important seat and said yes. We're very pleased to welcome Catherine Parker, Thomas Murphy this evening, and we have a moderator with us I'm going to introduce in a moment, who is going to go over the rules of the debate. The primary is going to take place on September 10th, and the polling hours are from 6 in the morning until 9 o'clock at night. If you are not registered to vote, you can go on the County Board of Elections website, absentee ballots, and register that way. If you have any questions afterward, please feel free. And of course, we're going to ask questions. And with so many people here, we are passing out envelopes. We're not missing the opportunity to ask people to join the league. We're here as a public service, and we want to keep this great organization alive because we really do need to preserve our liberties in this country, and I hope you all feel the same. We're very happy to have Barbara Arrington Dodds here tonight as our moderator. Barbara is a current board member of the League of Women Voters of Bedford, Lewisboro, North Salem, former co-president of the League of Women Voters of New Rochelle, and a board member of the League of Women Voters of Westchester County. She's the former publications editor, League of Women Voters New Rochelle Bulletin, League of Women Voters Westchester County Voter, League of Women Voters New York State Legislative Newsletter. And I want to mention, without going into all the specifics, Barbara has committed her life to public service, working for people who are homeless, working in any number of capacities, and Westchester Disabled on the Move, Inc. gave her an Advocate of the Year award in 2011. So clearly, you are somebody that we are very, very lucky to have here tonight. Thank you for giving us your time.
Thank you.
I'm going to turn this over now to Barbara, who's going to explain. Oh, I want to mention, where's Carolyn Pomerantz, who's our board member, is going to be putting up the time, the stop, and so she's very diligent at that. I'm going to turn this over to Barbara now. You'll give the rules of the debate, and then we'll get started. Thank you again.
Well, thank you all for coming, and thank you, candidates, for stepping up to the plate. It's always nice to see somebody willing to do that. These rules are the rules that the League of Larchmont and Mamaroneck have decided. So I don't take ownership for them. But we're going to have Tom Murphy is going first in the opening statement. Catherine Parker is going second, and that was decided by a toss of the coin. And they will also have their closing statements in the same order. We're going to have 1.5 minute opening statements from each, and the timer will put up a sign that says 30 seconds when that time occurs, and then the stop means to stop. It doesn't mean stop with your mouth open.
Finish the sentence.
Exactly. And then we're going to have questions that the League has prepared. We are not having questions from the audience, as Beth told you, but I think that these questions are certainly cover everything that would be covered in in any number of questions. There are 10 of them, so I don't know what else there is to say after that. So, let's start. Opening statement, 1.5 minutes.
Good evening. I want to begin by thanking the League for putting together this debate on short notice. I served for 6 years as a trustee in the village of Mamaroneck. My service there was a natural extension of the things I had done before in my life. I worked in the building trades for 30 years, served as a shop steward for my union. I've coached kids, chaired the Coastal Zone Management Commission in the village of Mamaroneck, been on the board of the Washingtonville Housing Alliance, and rolled up my sleeves countless times to help my neighbors and keep our community a special place to be. In my personal and professional and political lives, I've always taken responsibility and showed that I am not afraid to stand up for what I believe in. In Mamaroneck, we tackled the lack of transparency in land use decisions and out-of-control legal costs and a zoning code that badly needed to be revised. I worked on these issues, sometimes as the only Democrat, other times as the member of the majority. I never threw up my hands and I never gave in. I worked hard until we succeeded. I'm running for county legislator to bring my unique experience to the board. I know that I can effectively advocate for our district to control taxes, to end the White Plains pay-to-play culture, and to ensure that our communities receive the resources to combat flooding that has devastated so many of us. Over the next 7 weeks, I look forward to discussing Ms. Parker's and my achievements and our visions. I am proud of mine and know that they will serve the people of the 7th Legislative District well for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you to the League of Women Voters for organizing this forum. I've been an elected official for the last 6 years, and I like to say that I came to politics in a very organic way. I was known in the community first as a business leader and as a leader of other community organizations. And then as a wife and a mother, I've always seen my involvement in politics as being something and a way to give back to the community and a way of giving my children the best hometown. As a Rye City Councilwoman, I've succeeded at keeping taxes low while doing necessary infrastructure improvements. I've tackled flood mitigation projects. I have an exceptional environmental record, and I've worked on issues related to our parks, and more specifically, I've been liaison for Playland. I see this as a natural extension for me to become the next county legislator for the 7th District. Why? Because the issues in Rye are the same as the issues in the Sound Shore. We have an issue with taxes. We really need to balance that with quality of life and infrastructure needs. We need to move forward on flood mitigation projects and make sure that it's a priority for the county. We need to move forward on environmental issues, and we need to see Playland perpetuated for generations to come. I am honored to have the support of many elected officials. They know my record, they know that I can get things done, and they know that I work well with people to do that. But I'm here tonight because I want you to get to know me too. I look forward to the discussion this evening. Thank you.
All right. The first question, what is your recommendation for the future of Playland and why?
To me.
Yes.
You know, the county executive has rushed to judgment and chosen a company called Sustainable Playland, which is an oxymoron because it's not sustainable and at the end it won't be Playland. They had a plan which cut Playland amusement parks in half, cut half of the parking, put other uses there. That plan was never vetted economically. That plan was never vetted from a planning basis. We don't know the traffic implications of that plan. We don't know the parking implications of that plan. We're putting more uses in a park and taking away less facilities for that park. The Rye Town Council voted 7-0 with Ms. Parker voting to support that plan before it was vetted and before we really knew what the other options are and what the implications of that plan are. I think what we have to do is wait for the Board of Legislators to do their job. They've been investigating this for a while, and they're going to come out with a report basically saying what the economic benefit and detriment for the sustainable Playland is. I think what we have to do is we have to make Playland accessible to everybody. Playland is a resource for people who don't have other resources. You know, all of us use it, but for some people in this community and in this county, Playland is their vacation. They save up all year to spend a day at Playland with their kids. And that is something that we have to keep in mind. We have to be mindful of that there are people who live among us for whom playland is their main source of entertainment. And it's affordable, and it's accessible, and we should maintain that for the future.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy.
Playland, as it has been going, has not been sustainable. Playland is a gem, there's no doubt, but if you've been there recently, it looks like it's suffered from benign neglect. It needs a major facelift. And the Rye City Council, I was actually the liaison for the Playland Strategic Planning Group. We had many public discussions, both of Playland, the park, and what we all envisioned for Playland. And also, as we moved down the line, we talked with Sustainable Playland. And overwhelmingly, people were in support of the plan. Now, I will agree with Mr. Murphy that on the county level, those dialogues were not happening. The public was not included in the process. But the plan itself of Sustainable Playland has evolved over time, and they've done many things right. First of all, they've identified the need to make it 365 days a year useful. And they've also identified that even though the amusement park is 23 of the 100 acres, they need to look at all 100 acres. And they will bring in new businesses. They will bring in restaurants, cafes, kayak launch, fields, many things that are necessary and wonderful to have in this community. I think everybody in the Sound Shore will appreciate that. They've also, most recently, this is new, partnered with Central Amusements, who is a known entity in the amusement park industry. They will revitalize it, and like they did Coney Island and Luna Park. Thank you.
Thank you. There are 3 seats in the front that are not reserved for anybody. So if those who are standing want to use them, feel free. Okay, Ms. Parker. Many of your constituents live with the constant threat of flooding. Mm-hmm. How do you plan to address flood mitigation and flood relief?
That is true. Flood mitigation is absolutely sorely needed in the Sound Shore. 3 things right off the bat that I would like to see the county do for flood mitigation. 1, create an Office of Flood Management to help streamline regional coordination. 2, dedicate dollars each year to flood projects. And 3, work alongside with other state agencies now that Governor Cuomo has announced that he wants to dedicate $500 million to flood relief in the whole state. As Sound Shore communities, we know that water knows no municipal boundaries. And the flood mitigation projects that we can do are absolutely astronomical in price for each municipality. The county is a natural, and probably the best reason for county government is flood mitigation. And the county is a natural partner for us. When Mamaroneck looked to Glendale and the bridge and to Harrison to help, the county should have been there to help get that project along. In Rye, we looked to Rybrook, and we recognized the fact that we had to work with our neighbor. The county ended up partnering with us for a sluice gate. We need to see more of these regional solutions. And again, in the county, in all our watershed districts, we need to work together. The county is a natural leader for this, and we really have to go forward because climate change is making flooding a reality that's happening more often. Thank you.
Okay. You know, Catherine's right. Flooding is a regional issue, and it has to be addressed from a county and a statewide level, and they have to help the local communities deal with, you know, each individual problem. I think what we need the county to do is the county used to provide $10 million a year to help communities deal with flooding. Under the Astorino administration, that's been cut out. We need to get that money back in, and that money has to be used to help the local communities pay for their end of the studies. Because what happens is, you know, the Army Corps of Engineers will come in and pay for a study, but they asked each community to chip in a significant amount. And for a little community like Mamaroneck or Largemont, it's a very daunting price. And you know, we need to get the studies done, and then we need to actually do the work. But what also has to happen is the local communities need help being prepared for storms. Flooding is going to happen. There are going to be storms. We can try and mitigate it, but we need to have our police, our firemen, and our emergency service workers prepared to respond to those storms at a moment's notice, because they are on the front lines. In 2007, when Mamaroneck had the terrific storms, I was a trustee, and I was out all day with our firemen, and I saw what they did and how they put their lives on the line and how they put the community before their families. And we have to give them everything that they need to respond to those emergencies. And that money could come from the county. And the county could be buying equipment that each individual community can specify that they need, and that would relieve the taxpayers of that local community of having to provide that for themselves. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy, Westchester County pays the highest property taxes in the country, but we are not the wealthiest county. As county legislator, what would you propose to rectify this? Now, I'm not sure whether this question is meant to rectify whether we're the wealthiest county or not. But I think you understand.
Well, I do understand.
All right.
You know what, we have to be in some, you know what, I'm going to tell you something that a lot of people running for office aren't going to tell you. That we are the highest tax community, county, that's true, but we also have the most services. What we make here, what our chief product in Westchester County is the education of our children. And that's 50% of your tax bill. And we all moved here for that. And that is, you know, that we don't want that to change. The county is about 15 to 20% of your tax bill. But to be realistic, you have to say, you know, what services do you not want? And, you know, when you have a realistic discussion with taxpayers, they don't want any services cut. And I understand it. I moved here from New York City so my children could have a good education. And they've gotten a great education here. And I'll pay for that. When I moved here from New York City in the 70s, where you could wait a half hour for a police officer to come. And now I live in a community where if, God forbid, something happens, I know a police officer is going to be in my house in a minute and a half. I'll pay for that. And, you know, I think we have to be very mindful of people's taxes. We really do. We have to, you know, watch every penny and watch every dime. But we get a lot of services here. And if we, you know, we're going to have a realistic discussion about taxes, we have to have a realistic discussion about services. And we have to, you know, ask people, what can you do without? And what is non-essential to you? Because we moved here for these services. You know, it's easy for someone running for office to demonize government, to say, you know, we all pay too much. I don't like paying taxes. Nobody likes paying taxes. But I like the services I get. You know, I like living in a community that has civilization. You know, Oliver Wendell Holmes said, I pay taxes because it buys me civilization. And we have a civilization here. And, you know, let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to be mindful of how we spend our money, but we have to be mindful of our quality of life. Thank you.
I was going to say, there's no 90-second answer here. You know, it is true that I believe the tax burden at this point is unsustainable. I've been knocking on doors lately, and when I meet people who tell me that their kids are no longer in the school system and therefore they're moving, I think that's a big problem. I want to point out that the county executive in the 2013 budget couldn't figure out the answer to that question either, what to do about taxes, because he couldn't reduce the burden, he couldn't keep them flat. What he had to do was he had to borrow $48 million to pay for operating. So in effect, there was an increase. It was just that he put it on the county credit card and basically said, we'll worry about that later down the line. But back to the issue at hand, the tax burden and what I would do, I would definitely consider looking at the 57 administrative interns that the Astorino administration has, each making $95,000, and I would look at maybe making some cuts there. Then I would look at county fees for buildings, parks, and parking, things that are not more user fees. We do this in Rye. We analyze our user fees once a year, usually out of the budget process, and we could probably gain some extra dollars there. And another way we can probably save is through technology. I look at our county clerk's budget. It's $7.4 million, and I think with technology today, there's certainly some streamlining that can be done. Those are real dollars, but down the line, we have to look at alternative energy.
Ms. Parker,
Yes.
what is your understanding of the demographics in Westchester County? And based on those demographics, what would your priorities be as county legislator?
Well, there's certainly a little bit of everything. In fact, we are fortunate that we have a real melting pot here in Westchester, and people of all different ethnic and economical backgrounds. But we're all in this together. So I think as we look at our government, we really have to evaluate how we take care of everyone. And it's not just the nice to haves, we really have to look at the must haves. So when I talk about a park that I love, Playland, as a fourth generation Westchester County resident, I don't put that in the must have, I do put that in the nice to have. I want to see it sustained, but it has to be weighed against things like daycare and trying to help our people that really need an extra hand with the work, getting to work and who's going to take care of their kids. And I think it all has to be looked at together. We can't just do these draconian cuts to our social services and not expect that there's going to be repercussions down the line. And I think for all of us to really evaluate our community of Westchester County, we really need to be looking at it holistically and looking down the line and seeing, what are the long-term ramifications for these cuts? Is somebody who is not going to get the foreclosure prevention help, are they going to end up now homeless and in public housing? I really think we have to look at things and do a real cost-benefit analysis. Thank you.
Could you repeat the question?
What is your understanding of the demographics in Westchester County? And based on those demographics, what would your priorities be as county legislator?
Based upon the demographics, I think Westchester as a whole is a very diverse county. But the diversity is, it's kind of ironic because the diversity is spread into segregated areas. There's some very affluent communities and there's some communities that are very struggling. So what we have to do is we have to be mindful of all of our citizens and value everyone the same, and every voice should be heard the same. There should be no special treatment for privileged, and there should be, everybody should be treated equally. But there's a couple of things I want to address. The county clerk's office is probably the most streamlined office in county government, and they use technology more effectively in the past 8 years than any place in county government. And I just wanted to correct that because I know that the county clerk who's sitting here tonight put a lot of effort into streamlining government, getting rid of excess employees, and making that probably the most efficient county agency. As regards to Playland, Playland isn't just a need to have, a like to have, it's a need to have for a lot of people. But also, there's this Republican argument that we've seemed to swallow that Playland's not sustainable. Playland is judged differently than every other park. No other park has their capital costs included in how we judge their cost benefits. No other park. That is something that the Republicans started, that the Democrats have now are trying to debunk, and I'm surprised to hear Ms. Parker say it. Because if you took any other park, any other golf course, they'd be running a deficit if you looked at their capital costs too. Playland's operating costs pay for its sustained day-to-day operation.
Hey, Mr. Murphy, what needs fixing most in Westchester County? Why and how would you fix it?
I think what needs fixing in Westchester County government and in every form of government, probably from the town level up, is people's faith in the government. And a lot of times people have lost their faith in the government, and they've lost their faith in the government because they believe, and in a lot of cases rightly so, that obscene amounts of money have corrupted the system, that the average person's voice is not heard because people are so interested in the next election cycle, so interested in raising money for that next election cycle, that they don't address the needs of the average person. We hear the corporations really loudly, but we don't hear the people who really need help as well as we should. And what I'd like to see, what I'd like to do, and what I will propose, is that elected officials in Westchester County no longer take contributions from vendors who work for Westchester County, no longer take contributions from anyone who has a contract with Westchester County. And some people tell you, well, that's not an issue, but even if it doesn't affect you, and I don't believe that it wouldn't affect people, I believe it does affect people, but it's the appearance of impropriety. And we have to get rid of the appearance of impropriety before people have faith in their government. And we have to restore that faith so people don't care about government anymore because they don't trust it. We have to bring that trust back because the government is representative of all of us. It's our hopes, our dreams, and our aspirations. And if we don't get involved in it, then the wrong people control it, and they control it for the wrong reasons. So, you know, we have to bring everybody back into the process, and trust is how that starts.
Thank you. Ms. Parker?
Could you read the question again?
Yes. What
Thank you.
needs fixing most in Westchester County?
Thank you.
Why and how would you fix it?
That's what I thought the question was. Okay, I think what needs fixing are three things. One, we talked a little bit about the tax burden, but what we didn't discuss was that we have unfunded mandates, and specifically Medicaid, that in this climate, it just seems unreasonable to have property taxes have to go to pay $223 million of Medicaid. That's one. Another area that needs fixing, it's not just Westchester County, but I'm very concerned about climate change. And I see climate change as a real threat to our county and our way of life, and living in the Sound Shore, I think we are very vulnerable. So I believe we really can't afford not to do anything about it. Westchester County has a Westchester Action Plan for climate change. It's basically been sitting on a shelf collecting dust since about 2009. And I think it's really time we dust that off and start moving forward. We just can't waste any more time with that. And then lastly, and tying back into climate change, is flooding. Again, I have to bring it up because it's that important. I think it's a direct outcome of climate change, as well as overdevelopment upstream. And I think each of our communities need to take some steps to move forward in addressing the question in relation to land use. And I think the unthinkable of communities having to look at buying property that are in the flood zones is becoming more and more of a reality. We really have to be looking at what we can do about flooding. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parker? Do you support reinstitution of services cut by the county in recent years? If not, why not? If so, which are the top priorities to reinstate and why? And how will you fund those priorities?
It's a great question. There's a list. There's certainly a list. Well, here are a couple of the things that concern me most. You know, we have community health centers that have been providing a real service throughout Westchester County. Why? Because working poor, when they get sick and they're uninsured, where are they going? They're going into these community health centers, which is far better, by the way, and far less expensive on the community than by going into the emergency room of hospitals. So really, the cuts to health centers is penny wise, pound foolish. It's just not taking into account how we are actually benefiting long-term in a financial way, and actually the community's benefiting. They're staying healthier, they're staying able to work. It's a win-win. That's something that I think we really have to look at. I would also say this year, daycare has been going up and up. Since 2009, the increase has been 164% of an increase. I mean, whose salary went up 164%, right? In the last year, for this 2013 budget, the coalition had raised the contribution for parents $59, so basically $2 a day. It's significant. When you think about it over time, it's very significant. We don't want to get to a point where parents can't have to make a choice between taking care of their children or going out and getting a job and going on more social services. So I really think those are the kind of cuts we need to be looking at.
I agree with Catherine about the child care subsidy cut, and also about the mental health, not the mental health, the health subsidy, and mental health. You could always use mental health. Something I've always strived for. With varying degrees of success. But you know what these programs are about? They're about giving people the opportunity to become middle-class citizens. People want to work. People don't want to be in poverty. People want to have self-respect. And the child care subsidy and the clinics that Catherine talked about are the ladders up. And what we've done as a government on every level, is we've taken away the hope of people who are in the lower strata and in the middle class that they could ever advance. If you're in the middle class today, you're struggling. Your wife is working, you're working, and you're hoping that you'll find a way to get your kid money to go to college so that they can remain in the middle class or advance. We've really taken away the ability of people to strive to move into the next strata, and that's what America was about. And we can't say that, oh, we can't afford it anymore. We can't afford it, because when you can't afford it, you're taking away hope. And it's a very dangerous thing when you take away hope from people, because hope is what keeps us moving forward every day. Hope that our lives will be better, hope that our children's lives will be better. And the programs Catherine talked about and that Astorino has cut and doesn't seem to care about it all are the programs that make life livable for a lot of people. And we have to find a way to pay for them. And Catherine talked about cuts in Astorino's administration in his office. I'd be very happy to do that. Thank you.
Mr. Murphy,
Yes, ma'am.
what is your availability to perform the demands of the Westchester County, of a Westchester County legislator?
Well, I was a Village of Mamaroneck trustee for 6 years. And anyone who served in a village, the mayor is back there right now, the mayor of the Village of Mamaroneck, and anyone who's ever served in a Village of Mamaroneck could tell you it's a very time-consuming, a very emotionally and physically sometimes demanding job. And I admire anyone who does it and who's done it for a long time. Mayor Chapin is here, who is an exemplar in that way. But you know what? I've always been available. I have always made time for my public service, and I will make time for my public service. My job has a degree of flexibility. I have vacation days that I could use to attend meetings. I've already talked to my employers about that. So I will be available to do the things I need to do. And in today's world, with our smartphones and our video chats, we're accessible 24 hours a day. And that's what government service has become. It's become a 24 hours a day job. And that's okay, because that's the way I like to do it. I like to throw myself into it completely. Some would say to the detriment of other things, but you know what? I really enjoy it. I believe that it's the highest calling to be able to do something for someone else and to be able to help your community. And that is really, I went to a high school. It was an all-boys Catholic high school in the city, but the motto of the high school was to be a man for others. That the purpose of a good life is to have lived life thinking about what's best for the community around you. And I haven't always been perfect at that, but it's always been in the back of my mind thanks to the Jesuits.
Thank you.
I'm a small business owner. I have a store in Rye, and this is my 17th year. And while I've been on the city council, I've made a conscious decision to devote myself equally to my public service and my business. I feel it's incredibly important as an elected official. It's not just about attending the city council meetings, although it is about that. So it's not just about attending the county legislative meetings. It's also about being present in the communities that you serve. I make a conscious point, even now, and I have been for some time, to get out in Mamaroneck and Larchmont and New Rochelle and Harrison and get to know you. I want you to get to know me too. I want there to be a dialogue so that I know your issues and I know what's important to you. I find this to be a very effective way of governing, and I have some very good role models who have shown me the way. I refer to Senator George Latimer, who is a good friend, and we all know that Senator Latimer is out in public at all our committee meetings, and I've learned from him. I've learned. And so I plan on being very devoted. I've been attending the Mamaroneck Chamber of Commerce meetings, the Larchmont-Mamaroneck Summit meetings. I have joined the Mamaroneck-Larchmont LinkedIn group, and I've got the stop sign, so I'm done.
In terms of county infrastructure, what is the most pressing issue as it relates to our district and why? And what steps would you take to rectify and fund this?
We have several infrastructure needs, and boy, I've already talked about flooding a lot. I could go there. Let's talk about something new. I also believe that we have a real issue with our infrastructure pertaining to wastewater and stormwater. Being a Sound Shore community, we really need to be incredibly conscious of this. I recently attended a meeting of Save the Sound, and Save the Sound is opening up an office in Westchester because they've been very involved for the last 40 years, more in Connecticut, and Connecticut has done a fantastic job of cleaning up Long Island Sound. New York, Westchester, not so much. And I really think that we need to be as honest about clean water and the need for it. You know, we've started doing the bionitrate cleanup out of the Mamaroneck and New Rochelle wastewater treatment plants. That's a start. But we really need to be cognizant about our stormwater runoff, because these things, when you have nitrates in the water and you have pollutants like fertilizer and other things that are going into the storm drains, you end up getting a dead zone. We have it in the Sound right now. It's hypoxia caused by lack of oxygen. And you know, this is no way to leave our environment for our children, that's for sure. We also, again, you know, according to Save the Sound, during good weather, the Sound is okay. But as we all know, the Sound ends up getting closed on days when it rains, more water runoff.
Thank you.
You know, the county has spent hundreds of millions of dollars to upgrade its sanitary sewer based upon a DEC consent order. And they've done the work, and you know, it'll come online, the Mamaroneck plant, in the next few months. But the local stormwater problems, and they are a problem, Catherine's right, you know, the county doesn't handle stormwater. The local communities handle stormwater. And you know, the county probably should lead in getting more involved in that, and in trying to help the communities. You know, because right now the stormwater plan we have in almost all communities in Westchester County is it rains, goes into a pipe, and it goes into your local river. And that, you know, New York City doesn't do that. New York City has a combined sewer system, but here we have separate sewer systems. And, you know, it really is, you know, an awful way to do it. I think some year in the future, our great-great-grandchildren are going to look back at it as a barbaric practice. But it's how we do it. But one of the things that really the county is, you know, has to look at, and I think Judy Myers caught it, was that the county was going to tap into the tunnel that provides water to our area to serve other communities, and that would have possibly lowered the water pressure in our community, which would have, you know, obviously hurt us all, and you know, been a detriment to our firefighting abilities. And you know, we have to look at if that is done, you know, how does that affect us? You know, where does the you know, the extra pressure come from if we lose pressure? Because you don't want to lose pressure when you need it in a fire. You know, this is a life and death situation. But you know, we have to be mindful of, you know, building our community and rebuilding our community. It's, you know, paramount to take care of, you know, your infrastructure.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy.
Yes, ma'am.
How should Westchester County move forward with the housing settlement?
Okay. Well, the housing settlement has the force of law. The housing settlement has been agreed upon. It has been signed. You know, the federal judge has stamped it. We have to follow it. You know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You know, Rob Astorino is playing a very dangerous game here that could put us all on the hook for $500 million. You know, we have to spend $57 million. I think $52 million of it goes to building affordable housing in Westchester County. It's talking about building 750 units throughout Westchester County. That's not a lot of units. It's not an egregious burden. You know, he's been, you know, telling falsehoods about the federal government is going to come in and take over your zoning, and you know, it's just a lot of hooey. And you know, he's using it to scare people, and he's using it to divide us. You know, affordable housing is a gift. I grew up in affordable housing. I grew up in New York City in the mutual redevelopment projects, and you know, for my family, it was a decent, clean place to live and raised 3 boys. It was crowded, you know, 3 boys in a 2-bedroom apartment. But you know what? It was a needful thing, and it saved a lot of our community. And you know what we have to do is we have to spend that money in our. It's $52 million that's going to be spent in Westchester to hire Westchester workers to put up housing that we all need. You You know, there are a lot of communities that haven't done the work that the Village of Mamaroneck has done on affordable housing. The Village of Mamaroneck isn't affected by this because the Washingtonville Housing Alliance, which I was a member of for years, built a lot of affordable housing. So you know what? I don't want to go and be on the hook for $500 million to keep South Salem from building housing that they should have built years ago.
Thank you.
I think that we can agree that the settlement is the settlement. The Justice Department is involved now, and frankly, the thought of effectively doubling our taxes due to a game of chicken that's being played at the county level seems incredibly dangerous to all of us in the community. I keep thinking, you know, if Rob Astorino doesn't have a campaign song, it should be, "I fought the law and the law won," because I'm pretty sure that the Justice Department is going to really grow tired of these tactics. A couple of things. I think it's important to note that communities that were named in the settlement are actually moving ahead and doing projects. And in fact, in Rye, we already have a couple of affordable housing projects. One, my early years on the city council, we approved an affordable housing project on Cottage Street. People are actually moving into that now. And then we also have Rye Manor, which is for seniors. And that's one of the things, too, about affordable housing. You know, I think there's this scare thing that it's not going to be families like Tom's family, but it really does serve families, seniors. It could also be for our workforce, fire and first responders. Belfair and Rybrook was actually originally created for people in the workforce in the local community. So I really think that we need to be looking at at the good thing that we could do with affordable housing.
This is the last question.
Already?
Yeah, that was fast, huh?
Time flies.
I know, when you're having fun. Catherine, our beaches have been closed a significant number of days this summer, and our sewer infrastructure is degrading. What will you do to address these issues?
Right. And actually, I'm glad that was the last question because I forgot. I wanted to go back to what Mr. Murphy had said earlier. Actually, the county has what's called a stormwater reconnaissance plan, and they passed that in 2011. So it's definitely something the county wants to see communities take action on and help them with that. And as far as the hookup for the water, it's also still on the table. So yes, the beaches have been closed, and again, that goes to the same issue that I talked about earlier, where we have water treatment plants and stormwater runoff, and when you have an occurrence of even as little as a half an inch of rain, it is too much for the system to bear, and raw sewage and runoff goes into the sound, and then we have closed beaches. We need to do more with our sewage treatment plants. I know for a fact that the Port Chester treatment plant, actually not in our district, but is one that really is in desperate shape. It hasn't had the same nitrate removal that Mamaroneck has gone through and New Rochelle, and we really need to be looking at that as well. And I'm going to end there.
Okay, thank you.
You know, the problem with our beaches isn't just the stormwater runoff, and it is a problem, and it's a problem that needs to be addressed with various tactics. But also, one of the big problems is inflow and infiltration. We worked on that in the Village of Mamaroneck a lot. And what that means is, it means pipes that are degraded and groundwater gets in the pipe during a rain event and overflows the pipe, usually at a junction where there's a manhole cover. And also, inflow is when people are illegally hooked up. There are hundreds of people who are illegally hooked up. It is illegal to hook your sump pump up to your sanitary sewer. And those of you who are watching here, you've been warned. It's illegal, and it has to stop, because what it does, during a rain event in Orienta, at the corner of Orienta and Boston Post Road, there is a sewage pump station, and it has 5 pumps. During a normal day, 1 pump operates. During a rain event, 5 pumps operate. Now, there should really be no difference because there should be none of that inflow and infiltration getting into a sanitary sewer system. So we know it's happening. We've identified it in areas all over Westchester County. And what we have to do is the county has to help the local communities deal with it, because a lot of the local communities' pipes were put in 100, 120 years ago, 80 years ago, and they're degraded. And it costs a lot of money to slip line pipes, is what they do now. They don't dig up the street, they slip line the pipes. And the county should work in cooperation with the communities. And hopefully, there used to be money from the federal government to do stuff like this. But, since the conversation has changed over the years and, everything's been about cutting taxes, there's no more money for infrastructure. But that's one of the real problems of these closures, is the sanitary sewer overflows. Thank you.
Thank you. Unless the league has other questions, that's it for the question period. Yes?
I'm going to have closing statements, and then I'd like to, since we've got such a great turnout there, I'm going to take advantage of the opportunity and speak to folks here about a couple of them.
All right, fine. Okay, so Mr. Murphy.
Hi, thank you. I'd like to thank the league, I'd like to thank Ms. Parker and the audience for making tonight's debate possible. This primary is about who is the best Democrat to compete in November general election and to serve on the County Board of Legislators. My legislative successes, history of working across the aisle, and life experiences will all help me represent you well in White Plains. I've represented a village that often faced with complex issues which demographically resembles our county. But first, as a Democrat, has to get to White Plains by winning an election in November. Make no mistake, maintaining a Democratic majority on the county board is critical. Losing the board could result in setbacks in social programs and short-term economic decisions that, while politically expedient, would be disastrous for the county. Frankly, I think I am in a better position to win in November. I've won 3 elections by wide margins. My hometown of Mamaroneck makes up 2/3 of the district. Ms. Parker's hometown of Rye, which, by the way, is also home to our state senator and our state assemblyman, is 20% in the district, and it has a history of voting Republican. When I was first elected in Mamaroneck, I was the only Democrat on the board. 3 years later, all 5 officials were Democrats. I hope I am given the opportunity to show once again that reasonable and articulate advocacy is what the people of our community want and deserve. I ask you, my fellow Democrats, for your votes to make me be your advocate. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Parker.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters, and to Carolyn Pomerantz and to Barbara Dodds, our timekeeper and moderator. They did a very good job at keeping us in line, I think, right, Tom?
Yeah, I feel really controlled.
So I want to leave you with one last thought. If we're going to be talking democratic ideals, I share with everyone in this room those democratic ideals that we all value: a woman's right to choose, the need for gun control, and a belief that we're all in this together, whether we're talking about flooding or taxes and services or the environment. It's important that we remember that in 40 days, we need to come together and support whoever wins this primary. As I mentioned, I am very honored to have the endorsements of many elected officials: Senator George Latimer, County Executive candidate Noam Bramson, who we all want to win in November, and let's not forget County Legislator Judy Myers. Judy has been a champion for our district. She came through for us time and time again, and I don't think she would have thrown her support behind somebody who she didn't think was going to lead just like she has. I am asking you to consider that even though I am the Rye City Councilwoman and from Rye, that I will be there for the entire district, and I will be there to attend your meetings and listen to your concerns and fight for you. Judy has come through for us. I will come through for you too. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Barbara and Catherine and Tom, thank you so much. I am so thrilled to see so many people here. It is just really wonderful. We didn't open this up for audience questions tonight, but I do have cards here. We are going to have debates in the fall, And I would greatly appreciate if you would take these, fill out questions, and leave them here, because we want to be able to ask representative questions in the fall when we have our debates. Now, we've spoken tonight here about climate issues, and the League of Women Voters this year has a community conservation civics initiative, and it's very difficult, I have found, to communicate this to the community because we don't really have a local newspaper anymore. We've got online, but not everybody reads it. I don't know whether people here are familiar with the fact that the Hommocks Ice Rink is the largest energy consumer in our community, and we're going to be upgrading the energy system there to the tune of about $2.9 million in the coming year. We will pay for this through our taxes in one way or another, but what the League of Women Voters has done this year is come up with an initiative that encourages everybody in this room to conserve a little bit. Because while we're trying to shift to renewable energy, we really do need to also try to just consume less, send less to the garbage dump, throw away less food, etc. In the long run, this is going to have some kind of an impact, we hope, on the climate problems that we have, because obviously I think we've come to agree that there is some link between our consumption and what's happening with the heat. So if you would all be willing to maybe walk more and drive less and save $60 over the course of a year, maybe go and buy that bruised fruit at the supermarket and take those few pennies and put them in a box. If everybody in this community contributed $100, which is only 3 Starbucks a month, that's $2.9 million that we could raise in this community. And then we wouldn't have to pay for that with our taxes. Now, obviously, the little kids who are watching Teletubbies are not going to give up 3 Starbucks. But this is really a metaphor for what we can do as a community. And we're hoping we had a trashing show. We had the high school students make outfits out of recycled material. You can go on our website and watch it. I made a shirt out of tea bags. It was really pretty great. If anybody wants some tea bags, I've got some at home for you. We had a yard sale this year. We had 40 people in the community clean out their garages. We did this at the parking lot, and it was a huge success, although again, because we are limited in the way that we can get the word out, we didn't have as much participation as we would hope, but we're hoping this can be an annual thing. This is a great community. We have great leadership in the community, from our mayors, our town supervisor, our council people, our trustees, people who want to represent us in Westchester. Let's all of us as a community get together. The League of Women Voters is here, the summit is here. We really ask for your support. Please take a card. Please voice what your concerns are. We're here to serve you, and we thank you so much for coming. Good night.